Well, hello all you wonderful people out there in YouTube land, and welcome to the Texas Special YouTube channel. For this in-scale locomotive product review, we're going to be taking a look at this Bachmann Union Pacific number 1838262 Prairie steam locomotive. These in the real world were primarily used on local and branch line assignments. These were not your heavy haul mainline power. These specific models are available from Bachmann, are in a specific in a variety of different road names over the last several years, going back to the 1980s in N-scale. I've seen them in Burlington route, I've seen them in Union Pacific, Santa Fe, Frisco, Southern Pacific, Baltimore and Ohio. There's a bunch of different road names out there. These are still in production today. If you buy one off the shelf from either at a brick and mortar train store or at a online dealer like trainworld.com, they're going to run you anywhere between brand new, anywhere between $70 to $80 roughly, the last time I priced them. You can find these guys used as cheap as 30 or 40 bucks in working order. On eBay, of course, buyer beware. What you pay is usually what you get. This is a later model, mid 2010s. By that point, these were coming standard from the factory with knuckle couplers, magnetic operating knuckle couplers, the Bachmann Easy Mates, I think is what they're called, on both ends, the front pilot of the steam locomotive and the rear of the tender. The previous owner of this locomotive did swap the rear coupler from a knuckle coupler to one of those god-awful Rapidos. This is not my locomotive, therefore I'm not going to jack with swapping out couplers. As you can see, it is in the box, the original packaging, to include, well, you can't see it, but underneath this price tag, this $79.99 price tag from Papa Ben's, is the actual information card for the locomotive. Item number 51571, N-scale steam locomotive, Prairie 262, and tender UP number 1838. So, as you saw there, all I did was just lift this lid off of the box, and that exposes the locomotive sitting there in this little plastic cradle. You just pick the locomotive up and remove it from the cradle. No big trick to it. Additionally, if you remove the cradle, you'll see there's a little propaganda packet underneath. And it's not just a propaganda packet, it is also your instructions sorry for the camera. The owner's manual is basically folded up nice and tight. And the warranty card as well. The 1-year limited warranty card. And I believe that that's it. Yeah, that's it. There's no actual propaganda packet in here. So it's the warranty card and the instruction manual for the locomotive. Slip that back in there. Slip that back in the box. Now, this is basically a train set engine. And what I mean by that is this is on the same level as the Bachmann 060 that I reviewed earlier this year. It's not super highly detailed. It's not quite a Spectrum model, but it's not, like from the dark ages of N-scale, you know, the 70s and 80s and whatnot, horribly oversized everything, and, you know. So to start with, you have a separately applied wire hand railing that runs down the length of the boiler. Now, there's only 4 stanchions for that hand railing, so that is definitely a little short of prototypical standards, but you get what you pay for. While it does look good, it's not, you know, a Scale Trains or Broadway Limited, so you're not going to get an exact prototypical match 100%. Secondly, the paint separation from the graphite and the black on the boiler, between the boiler and the smoke box rather, is very nicely done, very evenly applied, a nice crisp hard separation, and as well as the graphite done here on along the side of the firebox is very nicely done. And you can't see it because my camera's being difficult, but there is actually some pretty good detailing on the firebox itself. There's some pretty good rivet detailing along the side of the firebox, and the Union Pacific on the side of the tender is very nicely executed, very evenly applied. There is no overly thick paint. There's no overly thin transparent sections. It all runs together very nicely, and it's very nice crisp separation between the silver lettering and the black of the tender and the silver numbering and the black of the cab. Now, the body of the locomotive and tender are both plastic. They're both one-piece bodies. The bell, the whistle, and the safety pop-off valve and turbo generator here are all one piece and molded to the body, same as the, smokestack and the pistons. And all of the steps and the pilot on the tender are again one piece molded to the tender. Now, very well done, especially for an N-scale locomotive, but molded to the tender and solid, one piece body. Now, the valve gear and the piston and driving rods, as well as the wheels, are all chemically darkened metal. And very nicely done, I will add. Now, just like that 060 that I reviewed earlier this year, the cab has no detailing whatsoever. In fact, it's occupied by the can motor. So the entire cab is the can motor. Now, what I neglected to mention in that review for the 060 is this right here. That little silver thing you see down here, that's actually the contact wiper that rubs against the inside of the drive wheel. There's one on either side, obviously. And just like the previous locomotive, you have a PC board drawbar with little brass wire contacts that contact the frame of the locomotive here on the underside of the cab to provide additional electrical pickup from the leading wheel of the truck. If we look at the underside of the tender, and my camera cooperates, so looking at the underside of the tender, you can see you have the emergency and service reservoir here. Actually, no, that's the brake piston right there.
You have the emergency and service reservoir here, and you have various assorted brake rigging and brake piping and underframe detailing. And you can see the electrical contacts on that lead truck for the electrical pickup. Looking at the top of the tender, you can see the cast in coal load. Bit of a plastic sheen for my taste, kind of glossy. If this was my engine, I would probably put some cinder ballast over that to kill down that plasticky sheen. It's not, so I'm not going to. And that little cylindrical looking device you see poking out the backside of the coal pile, that's actually a steam powered auger that would have fed coal into the firebox, and the fireman wouldn't have had to shovel the coal in like most people would traditionally think of with a steam locomotive. On the top of the tender deck behind the coal bunker, you can see the water hatch, and there is a little bit of rivet detailing on there. The rest of it is pretty much just smooth, flat plastic, which I kind of don't like, because prototypically there would be at least one or two rivet seams there to simulate, a couple of pieces of metal being riveted together to make the tender deck. Here we are looking at the rear of the tender. You can see a non-operational headlight there on the rear. That is that thing that looks like silver paint in the top right-hand corner of the tender deck. That's exactly what it is. It is a little cast-on headlight, and the headlight lens is just that. It's silver paint. You can see a little ladder there on the left-hand side of the tender, and there is actually a separately applied wire handrail that runs along the top of the back of the water tank, just below that headlight there. You should be able to see it fairly clearly on the camera. I really don't want to try pointing at it, because then it took me forever to get this camera to act right. And you've got some hand railing detail above the rear pilot, and of course the footboards on the back of the locomotive for a brakeman or switchman to stand on and ride the rear of the engine. Here we are looking at the front of the locomotive, and you can see there is a non-operational headlight on the very top of the smoke box. You've got some nice rivet detailing around the smoke box door, as well as the hinges on the smoke box door, and more of the hand railing detailing, plus the Easy Mate magnetic coupler that this locomotive is supposed to have on both ends. But for whatever reason, the previous owner decided, I don't want good couplers, I want trashy Rapidos. Yes, I know I'm supposed to be somewhat objective, but Rapidos are trash. I said it, get over it. 98% of N-scalers everywhere agree with that statement. Now, this locomotive does have minimalistic detailing on the front of the tender. I'm not taking this engine apart, because the PC drawbar on this, I'm not sure if it's that rear truck on the locomotive, or the PC board drawbar is shorter, or what. It's a major pain in the butt to get on and off, so I'm just leaving it alone. Trust me, there is some detailing there. Just use your imagination. It's not far off from what the 040 steam locomotive's tender looked like. The only difference is there's no shovel and there's no pick. Okay, time for my favorite part of these product reviews, and probably yours as well. The part where I shut up and I let the locomotive speak for itself. Before I do just that, I will say that I've ran this engine on my park loop and on a test track on my dining room table. It is a very smooth, very quiet runner. So we've got it set up here on Mr. George Bohn's compact N-scale layout here at the Texla Model Railroad Club. And let's see how it does. Kind of jumpy throttle response you saw there. I'm not sure if that's the locomotive or just the transformer